They had been humiliated before. In the year 844, Viking longships had sailed up the Guadalquivir and struck at Seville, then a jewel of Islamic Al-Andalus. They burned, they plundered. But when the armies of Cordoba struck back, the north were crushed. Hundreds were slain, their ships set ablaze, their pride drowned in southern waters. For the Vikings' honor demanded balance, and 15 years later they would come back, not to Spain this time, but across the sea, to the very shores of Africa itself, to avenge Seville and strike at the heart of Islam's western frontier. If you haven't seen that first battle, the Viking raid on Seville in 844, we've linked it below in the comments. Watch that first to understand where this fire began. Today we set sail south beyond the Pillars of Hercules to a land Norsemen was ever meant to see, Morocco. And this is the battle that made the Vikings take revenge on Islam. By the mid-9th century, the Viking world had reached its peak. From Ireland to the Caspian Sea, Norse sails had become symbols of both fear and fascination. Western Europe had been plundered again and again, monasteries burned, kings ransomed, and rivers turned into highways of conquest. In 859, a great fleet, perhaps 60 ships, assembled somewhere along the Atlantic coast of France or northern Spain. Its captains may have included Bern Ironside and Pastine, legendary sons of Ragnar Ladbrok, who had already ravaged the Mediterranean coasts years before. To them, the world was an open sea, their long ships, wooden thunderbolts hurled by ambition. The route southward was brutal and daring. The Vikings descended upon Galatia, raiding the coasts of Asturias and seizing whatever tribute the Christian kings could muster. From there, they struck Lisbon, then part of Muslim Al-Andalus, proving that no faith or empire was safe from their reach. Continuing south, they sacked Cadiz and at last, driven by either greed or divine madness, turned their sails toward the narrow passage that marked the end of Europe, the Strait of Gibraltar. To cross Gibraltar was more than geography. It was myth made real. Beyond lay the MRB, the place where the sun sets, an Islamic frontier of deserts and mountains, ruled by Berber dynasties under the spiritual authority of the Abbasid Caliphate. The Vikings had raided Christendom, Byzantium, and the Slavic lands. But to strike at Islam's western gate was to challenge a new world entirely. Their destination, however, was not the mighty cities of Fez or Marrakesh. Instead, they targeted Nekor, a small but prosperous Berber kingdom nestled in the Rift Mountains, not far from today's Al-Hoceima. Founded in the early 8th century, Nior had become a vital node of trade between the Sahara, Anduia, and the Mediterranean. Its ruler, Sahad ibn Salik al-Mnas, presided over a people known for their fierce independence and Islamic devotion. But even the sharpest faith can be caught unguarded. The Vikings arrived by sea, sudden, nameless, and swift. For the people of Nior, the horizon brought no omen of danger. They had heard of the mages, the fire worshippers from the north, who raided Al-Andalus. But no one believed such demons would cross the sea to Africa itself. And yet one autumn morning, the horizon turned to flame. 60 long ships glided into Moroccan waters, their oars beating against the calm Mediterranean like the heart of a storm. From their decks, the Vikings saw not Europe's green coasts, but the ochre cliffs of Africa. It was a sight no northerner had ever beheld, and for Nekor, the beginning of 8 days of fire. The Viking fleet landed near the Bay of Al-Hoceima at the edge of the rift. The coastline offered little resistance, no fortress, no garrison, only scattered fishing settlements. Once ashore, the Norsemen divided into small war bands, following the rivers and valleys that led inland toward Nor. The Berbers were caught completely off guard. The king, Sad ibn Salik, was reportedly still in the capital when the first scouts brought news of smoke on the coast. Thinking it a small raid, he sent troops to repel them. But the enemy continued to multiply. Every path from the sea seemed to bring new warriors glad in chain mail and bearing round shields with painted beasts. The Vikings advanced with terrifying speed. Used to river warfare, they moved light and struck hard, their axes cutting through the Berber lines before defenders could organize. Villages along the way were burned, their people taken as slaves. Within days, the Norsemen reached Nior itself. The capital, modest in size but rich in trade, became the storm's army. Witnesses in later chronicles wrote that the mages fell upon Nior like wolves upon a fold. The defenders fought bravely but were outnumbered and disoriented. The Vikings stormed the walls, looted the mosques, and burned the markets. King Sad fled into the surrounding mountains, gathering survivors to launch a counterattack that would never come for 8 days. Nikor was a city of ashes. The Vikings plundered its wealth, gold, silk, ivory, and above all, slaves, the most profitable cargo for their ships. It is said they captured men and women beyond count, selling them later in the ports of Al-Andalus and the Balearic Islands. But victory turned sour. Word of the raid spread swiftly across the Muslim world. The governors of Al-Andalus and nearby Berber tribes raised fleets to intercept the invaders before they could escape. As the Vikings withdrew to their ships, heavily laden and slowed by prisoners, Berber riders harried their rear. Some Viking war bands were trapped and wiped out in the mountain passes. Others managed to reach the coast only to find enemy sails on the horizon. When the long ships finally pushed back into open sea, the hunters became the hunted. Muslim ships from Almeria and Tunis clashed with them off the Moroccan coast. Several Viking ships were burned or captured, and many of their warriors were slain and enslaved, and the survivors fled north, their once proud fleet now scattered and bleeding. For Nikor, the destruction was absolute. Its mosques burned, its markets silent, its people scattered or enslaved. The once thriving capital of the Rift lay smoldering beneath the African sun, its river choked with ash and wreckage. Yet from those ruins rose a legend that would echo through Arabic chronicles for centuries. The Vikings were no longer seen as mere men, but as mages, fire-worshipping demons from the sea, embodiment of chaos that had dared to strike at Islam's western gate.